Are you in a custody fight in Illinois? Well, you might be getting an unexpected visitor, the guardian ad litem. This person could shape your parenting rights and even how often you see your children. But here's the twist. They're not your lawyer. They're not the other parent's lawyer. They represent your child's best interest, and the court listens very closely to what they have to say. If you're in an Illinois custody, divorce, or child protection case, this video is for you. My name is Jeff Hughes. I'm the lead attorney at Sterling Lawyers, and we're going to talk about what a guardian ad litem is and what you need to know before one shows up in your case. So what is a guardian ad litem? Well, a guardian ad litem, also known as a GAL, is a court-appointed attorney who investigates and advocates for your child's best interest in family law cases. They don't represent either party, and they are not there to play referee or mediator between the parents. They are there to look at the facts and talk to everyone involved, and ultimately to make a recommendation to the judge on what they feel is in the child's best interest. So think of them as part-time advocate, part investigator. The GAL's recommendations are not binding on the judge, meaning the judge can completely ignore them and not follow them, or the judge can take pieces of them and follow them. But remember, the judge gives significant weight to the recommendations of the guardian ad litem when it comes to entering orders for custody and parenting time and decision-making for your child. One common example that I can share with you is that one time we had a case where the mother was convinced that her ex-husband's new girlfriend was a bad influence on their 8-year-old daughter. The father, of course, insisted that his girlfriend was wonderful with the kids and often helped with homework at night. So the guardian ad litem was appointed and spent weeks investigating, visiting both homes, talking to the child, the teachers, and everyone that was involved with observing that child and seeing her on a consistent basis. So ultimately, after this full investigation, the guardian ad litem did not come and recommend for mom or recommend for dad. Instead, the guardian ad litem said, look, both parents are loving for the child, but what the child needs also, in addition to that, is more consistency around bedtime and things like that. So remember, the guardian ad litem doesn't pick sides. They pick outcomes for what they believe are in the best interest of the child. The guardian ad litems are most commonly appointed when there is an argument that cannot be resolved between the parents that involve custody, decision-making, and parenting time with the child. They are appointed when there's a child protection case. Now, those are cases involving abuse, neglect, or some sort of substance dependency of the parents involved. They're often appointed when there's an adoption or a guardianship case, but ultimately think of it as whenever the parents can't agree and the judge needs a neutral third party involved so they can shed more light and get into the nooks and crannies of the case where the judge sitting in the courthouse just simply doesn't have the time or capacity to do that. That is when a guardian ad litem is appointed in cases and disputes that are in the family court. Now, who appoints the guardian ad litem? That is exclusively the right of the judge, not the parents. Now, the parents can always request it, but it's ultimately going to be up to the judge in their consideration of all the facts of the case before a guardian ad litem is appointed. Now, the judges get those guardian ad litems from a list that each county has, and the judge considers the training of the guardian ad litems, previous experience with the guardian ad litem, and other cases that maybe are similar to your particular case, and any specialization that they have, and of course, availability of the guardian ad litem's schedule. Now, who can be a guardian ad litem? Well, in Illinois, a GAL must be a licensed attorney in good standing with the courts. They must complete a specialized guardian ad litem training, which are many hours of requirements around how to administer guardian ad litem duties in a family law setting. They need to have experience in family law, child welfare, or child advocacy. They need to meet standards of professional conduct, of impartiality and confidentiality around a case. And also, guardian ad litems must follow the guidelines outlined by our Illinois Supreme Court and the local rules. Now, every county has local rules, and sometimes judges have their own local rules within local rules. So the guardian ad litem needs to follow those particular rules. Now, keep in mind, the judges are not going to appoint a guardian ad litem unless there is a significant disagreement over custody and parenting time of the child, or if there are allegations of abuse, neglect, or parental unfitness. These cases bring up situations where the judge needs a neutral third party to assess the child's best interest because they just don't have the line of sight that they need sitting in the courtroom. They need someone that's investigating and is boots on the street, so to speak. Now, what is your move if a guardian ad litem is appointed in your case? Now, the first thing is know who the guardian ad litem is and do your investigation into that person so you can be prepared for how they may approach your case. And the best source of information will likely be your attorney that's involved because they will have had some experience with that guardian ad litem in the past and kind of know what their idiosyncrasies are so you can prepare for that. Now, when you do meet that guardian ad litem, keep your conversation child focused. Refer to the child or children as our children, not my. That's an important distinction. The guardian ad litems often look for those little subtle words that indicate underlying attitudes. Also, don't try to win over the guardian ad litem. Instead, show your willingness to cooperate with the other parent and to prioritize the child's needs above all else. Stick to that strategy. That is a winning strategy for getting the best outcome in cases where there's guardian ad litems involved. Now, it's also important to understand what the guardian ad litems actually do. Now, they're going to almost always start with interviewing both parents to understand what are the issues? What do they disagree on? And sometimes the conversation or the investigation stops there because they're able to see maybe a path forward that both parties would agree with. But oftentimes that is not the case. So after interviewing the parties that are involved, the parents that are involved, the guardian ad litems will go meet with the children in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, depending on the facts, circumstances, and the children's age that are involved. They'll also go interview third parties, coaches, teachers, doctors, therapists, people that are involved and see your child on a somewhat regular, consistent basis. They may also interview other family members that are involved, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and the like. They'll review court documents, look at school records, any records that they can get their hands on that would have an insight into what's going on in that particular case with that child. And then after all of that, they will make a recommendation to the judge on what should happen on issues of custody and parenting time of the child. Now, as you can imagine, and as I've already said, that recommendation is heavily weighted by the judge. So it's a very important recommendation. But remember, it's only a recommendation. The judge can modify it or throw it out entirely, but that is not common. Now understand, the guardian ad litem report does not decide the case, but it does guide the case. And that should guide how you interact and communicate with the guardian ad litem. Now remember, once a guardian ad litem is involved, your case is now shifted. It is no longer about you and the other parent. It's about how the guardian ad litem sees your child's world. And how you show up and prepare for that moment makes all the difference in a custody parenting time dispute case. So what's your next step? We'll know exactly what to say and what not to say when that guardian ad litem comes a calling. So in this next video, I will walk you through how to prepare for a guardian ad litem interview, avoiding common mistakes and making sure your voice is heard. I will see you over there.